It was a cold Monday morning. The kind of morning when the sky looks heavy, and even the sun seems too tired to shine. Students filled the hallways of Jefferson High, laughing, chatting, bumping into each other as lockers slammed shut. Phones were flashing, gossip flying like sparks. Everything felt loud, until he walked in. Ryan. He wasn't the kind of kid you'd notice in a crowd. No designer clothes, no flashy sneakers, no expensive headphones hanging around his neck. Just a simple gray shirt, faded jeans that had seen better days, and sneakers that looked worn from long walks. A cheap black backpack hung loosely on his shoulder, too ordinary for this place. He didn't look up. Not once. No glance at the curious faces turning his way. He just walked to the last row, and sat down. Quiet. Invisible. But the silence didn't last. A whisper broke it. "Who's that guy?" Another voice followed, dripping with sarcasm. "Probably a charity case. Look at those shoes, man." They snickered. Not loud enough for the teacher to hear, but loud enough for Ryan. And yet, he didn't flinch. He opened his notebook slowly, carefully, as if the pages were his safe place. The teacher walked in with a warm smile. "Good morning, class. We have a new student today. This is Ryan. Please, make him feel welcome." Welcome? The word hung in the air, empty, hollow. Because behind the teacher's back, smirks spread like wildfire. Some students didn't even bother hiding it. To them, Ryan wasn't interesting enough to care about. But Ryan, he just nodded. His expression calm. Almost too calm. As if he had seen this before. As if he expected it. The lesson began. The usual rhythm of pencils scratching, papers rustling. Then came the words that changed the mood in the room. "Pop quiz, everyone. 20 minutes. No talking." Groans filled the air. "Ugh, seriously? I didn't study." "Me neither." But Ryan said nothing. He picked up his pen and began writing. Smoothly. Effortlessly. Minutes passed. Students sighed, tapped their pens nervously. But Ryan didn't stop. His hand moved like water, line after line, answer after answer, steady and sure. While others struggled, he seemed almost bored. Then, with 10 minutes still left, he placed his pen down. Quietly. Folded the paper. And waited. The teacher raised an eyebrow. "Done already, Ryan?" "Yes, ma'am," he replied softly. "Confident, aren't we?" Ryan just gave a faint smile. And that's when it started. A voice from the second row, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Confident? Please." Bet he guessed everything. Laughter followed, sharp, cutting. Someone added. "Or maybe he just doesn't care. Look at him. Too cool to try." Ryan didn't react. He didn't turn around. He just stared at the window, at the gray sky outside. But inside, something flickered. Not anger. Not shame. Something else. A quiet fire no one could see. As the bell rang, chairs screeched, students rushed out. Ryan stood slowly, collected his things. And as he walked past the group that mocked him, he heard the whispers. "What's his deal? Thinks he's better than us? Nah. Just some broke kid. He won't last here." He heard every word. Every single one. And yet, that same faint smile appeared again. A smile they didn't understand. Because Ryan was not who they thought he was. The next day, the whispers began earlier. By the time Ryan entered the classroom, they were waiting for him. "Yo, charity boy's back." A boy near the door smirked, tossing his backpack onto the desk like he owned the room. Ryan walked past without a word. Another voice. Hey, new kid, nice jacket. What is that? Goodwill special. Laughter erupted. Ryan didn't stop. He reached his seat, the same one in the back, and sat down quietly. He opened his notebook, calm as ever. But his fingers tightened slightly on the pen. Just for a second. No one noticed. The teacher walked in, and silence fell, at least for a while. But as soon as she turned to write on the board, the whispers started again. Look at him. Acting like he's better than us. Better? He's nothing. Bet he takes the bus. More laughter. They didn't know Ryan did take the bus. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. At lunch, Ryan sat alone. A tray of untouched food in front of him. The cafeteria was loud, full of voices, jokes, and clattering trays. And then came the group. The same group that had been whispering. They walked over, slow, like a scene from a movie. Mind if we join you? The voice was dripping with fake sweetness. Ryan looked up, his eyes calm. Sure, he said quietly. They sat down, smirking at each other. So, Ryan, where you from? Some trailer park. More snickers. Ryan took a slow sip of water. Just outside the city, he answered softly. Figures, one of them said, leaning closer. Listen, man, this school, it's not for people like you. It's for winners. He tapped his expensive watch. You get what I'm saying? Ryan's eyes met his for the first time. And for a second, the smirk faded. Because there was something in Ryan's gaze. Not fear. Not anger. Something calm. Powerful. Like a storm that hasn't broken yet. Yeah, Ryan said finally. I get it. The group laughed, mistaking his calm for weakness. Good. Stay in your lane, new kid. They walked away, leaving Ryan alone again. But as they left, Ryan opened his phone. One notification blinked on the screen. A message. Board meeting confirmed. Shelter funding approved, $250,000 donation scheduled. Ryan's lips curved into a faint smile. Not because of the money. But because, soon, everything would change. That evening, while the others partied and posted selfies, Ryan sat in his room. No neon lights. No music blasting. Just a simple desk, a laptop, and plans. On the screen, emails from lawyers, architects, and charity organizations. Pictures of an animal shelter under construction. Smiling faces of kids in donated winter coats. Ryan closed the laptop slowly, exhaled. Tomorrow would come. And with it, choices. Because he wasn't here to show off. He was here for something bigger. And those who mocked him. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Friday came. The sky outside was gray, matching the mood in Ryan's classroom. He walked in early, like always, sat in the same back seat. The whispers started before the bell even rang. Hey, Ryan. You forget your designer clothes again. Laughter. Maybe he doesn't even own any. Poor kid. Someone tossed a crumpled paper at his desk. Ryan didn't move. Didn't even blink. But inside. A quiet storm was building. Halfway through class, the teacher announced. Group projects. Due next week. Pick your partners. Silence. Heads turned. Then smirks. Nobody looked at Ryan. Nobody wanted him. Finally, a voice from the back. Guess Ryan's working solo. Not like he can afford friends. Laughter filled the room. Ryan looked up slowly. His eyes swept across the room, calm, but sharp. That's fine, he said quietly. I work better alone. The words silenced them, for 2 seconds. Then came the sarcastic clapping. "Oh, tough guy. Careful, Ryan might cry into his thrift store hoodie." By lunchtime, the whispers weren't whispers anymore. They were loud. Mocking. Everywhere he walked, he felt the stares. The jokes. The laughter behind his back. And then. It happened. A phone camera. Someone hit record. "Yo, Ryan. Show us your phone. Or don't you have one?" The group circled him near the lockers. Ryan stood still. Calm. One boy stepped closer, waving his shiny new iPhone. "See this? Bet you've never held one." He pushed it toward Ryan's chest. The camera was rolling. Students gathered, waiting for drama. Ryan looked down at the phone, then back up. And smiled. Just a small, quiet smile. "Nice phone," he said softly. "I'll make sure the new school lab has the same model. For everyone." They froze. "What?" Ryan's voice stayed calm, almost gentle. "Don't worry. You'll understand soon." He stepped past them, leaving silence behind. The camera kept rolling, but for the first time, nobody laughed. That night, Ryan sat in his room again. But this time, the plans were bigger. Emails flashed across the screen. Donation approved. Press release scheduled. Scholarship fund ready. Ryan closed the laptop. His reflection stared back at him from the dark screen. Not the quiet boy they mocked. Not that nobody they laughed at. Tomorrow. They would see who he really was. Monday morning felt different. The hallways buzzed louder than usual. Phones out. Screens glowing. Everyone had seen the viral clip, the one where Ryan smiled and said those strange words. "I'll make sure the new school lab has the same model. For everyone." It had millions of views on TikTok overnight. The caption? "Rich or just delusional?" Students were waiting for a meltdown. For Ryan to break under the pressure. For him to run. But when he walked in, he was calm. Plain gray hoodie. Same old sneakers. Same quiet confidence. And that bothered them even more. By the time the bell rang, whispers turned into open laughter. "Here comes Mr. Billionaire. So, where's our iPhones, Ryan? You promised." A boy waved his phone at him, smirking. "Better not be lying, charity boy." Ryan placed his notebook on the desk. Slow. Calm. And said nothing. The teacher walked in, but before she could start, the classroom door opened. A man in a suit stepped inside. Not just any man, the principal. And behind him, 2 more people. Cameras. Local news. Gasps filled the room. "Good morning," the principal said, smiling like it was Christmas. "Class, today is special. We have an announcement to make." Every head turned toward Ryan. But he didn't move. Didn't smile. Didn't even look surprised. The principal continued. "Our school is receiving the largest private donation in its history, $2 million. Enough to build a new science lab, upgrade technology, and fund scholarships for underprivileged students for the next 5 years." The room erupted in shock. "What? Who?" The principal turned, and smiled at Ryan. "Thanks to one of your classmates." Ryan. Silence. Complete silence. The kind you could cut with a knife. Eyes widened. Mouths fell open. Someone whispered. "You're kidding." But the cameras were real. The check was real. And so was the boy they had laughed at all week. Ryan stood up slowly. All eyes on him now. For the first time, he spoke, not quietly, not nervously, but with calm strength. I didn't do this for attention. Or for anyone here to like me. I did it because I know what it feels like to have nothing. And if I can change that for someone else, I will. Gasps. Whispers. Phones recording every word. You all judged me by my clothes, by my shoes, by what I didn't show. But the truth? Money doesn't make you better. Kindness does. He paused. Looked straight at the ones who mocked him most. Never judge someone by what they wear. Because the person you laugh at today might be the one changing your world tomorrow. And with that, Ryan picked up his bag and walked out. Past the stunned faces. Past the cameras. Leaving a silence louder than any insult they ever threw at him. By the next morning, Ryan wasn't just a name in the classroom. He was everywhere. News headlines exploded. Teen donates over $1 million to local school. Anonymous benefactor turns out to be student. Social media was on fire. Clips of his calm speech from yesterday went viral. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. And for the first time in years, Jefferson High wasn't laughing at Ryan. They were talking about him with something they had never felt before, respect. When Ryan walked into school that day, the hallways went silent. Not the mocking silence from before. This time, it was awe. Every head turned. Some whispered. Some stared. And some lowered their eyes in shame. The same boys who once threw paper at his desk now scrambled to look busy, pretending they hadn't spent the last week tearing him down. The same girls who mocked his clothes now smiled nervously, hoping for a glance. But Ryan? He walked straight to his seat. Calm. Silent. Like nothing had changed. Because for him, nothing had. After class, one of the boys, the loudest one, the leader of the teasing, approached him. Ryan, hey, man, his voice cracked slightly. I just wanted to say. I'm sorry. Ryan looked at him for a long moment. Not with anger. Not with revenge. Just calm. You know, Ryan said softly. I forgave you before you even asked. The boy blinked. Why? Ryan smiled faintly. Because if I held on to hate, I'd be no better than the people who hurt me. He walked away, leaving the boy standing there, speechless. That evening, Ryan returned to the animal shelter, the same one that would now have new buildings, medical equipment, and safe homes for hundreds of abandoned pets. Kids ran up to him, hugging him, laughing, their small faces lit with joy. Dogs barked in excitement, tails wagging. Ryan knelt down, petting a little brown puppy. And in that quiet moment, away from cameras and noise, he whispered to himself. This is why I did it. Not for fame. Not for recognition. But for kindness. For change. And here's the truth no one saw coming. Ryan wasn't just the son of a millionaire. He was a boy who understood struggle. A boy who had everything, but still remembered what it felt like to have nothing. That's why he walked into school in worn-out sneakers. Why he sat in the back, silent, while the world judged him. Because he wanted to see something. To see who people really were when they thought someone had nothing to offer. And he saw. He saw how quick they were to laugh. To mock. To tear someone down based on clothes, on status, on what they thought they knew. And maybe, that's the greatest lesson of all. Never judge. Never assume. Because the person you look down on today might be the one holding out a hand to lift you tomorrow. Ryan stood by the shelter gates, watching the sun set. The world finally knew his name. But that didn't matter. What mattered was the difference he made, quietly, without hate, without revenge. Because true strength isn't loud. True strength is kindness in a world that underestimates it. So, the next time you're tempted to laugh at someone, remember Ryan. And ask yourself, what if I'm wrong about them?